How are you?
Hello.
Super.
So good. It's an exciting day today, and I appreciate everybody coming down. Obviously, we're here for an important announcement. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Probably none of you can guess what this is about. We'll unveil it shortly. I'm Mike Adams. I'm president of Moog Music, and I'm here to introduce our chief engineer, Cyril Lance. Cyril's been with the company since 2005, and basically handpicked by Bob to come in here and to carry on the legacy of Moog Music and our design of new products. And this one today is one of the more special ones, and we're very excited that you're all here. So I want to ask Cyril to come up and talk a little bit about the accomplishment, and it's been an amazing effort, and I think you will all be pretty excited with what you see. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just point out one thing before we start, that my title is Chief Engineer, which means public speaking is not my forte, so bear with me. And I'm also a tired engineer, so it's going to be even more challenging. But first of all, I want to thank all of you folks for being part of this festival. It's an incredible way to not only honor the legacy of Bob, which is kind of the main mission of our company, but also the larger things that Bob represented, and I think that we're all inspired by, you know, art and technology and creativity and the power of that in who we are as people and culture and society. So I'm really excited that you all are here. When talking about Bob's legacy, one of the cornerstones of his legacy was working with and listening to musicians and trying to develop the tools that those musicians needed, and there was a great symbiosis in that relationship. And that's been going on from the very beginning of Bob's work, and again, we feel very strongly about that relationship, and we're very blessed to have those relationships with artists all around the world of all different types of music that help us inform the kind of tools we make, and not only helping them create the tools that they want, but also hopefully inspiring them to hear new possibilities in their art and creativity. So this project kind of represents those larger inspirations and kind of goals of who we are as a company, and why we do a festival like this. This year marks the 50th anniversary, 1964, of an incredible collaboration that started between Bob Moog and Herb Deutsch up in Trumansburg, New York, when Bob was first starting out his company up there, developing his first concepts of electronic synthesis. And we are very, very honored to have Herb Deutsch here at the festival, and he's an incredible human being. And I want to do my best Vanna White here. And we're also very, very fortunate to have Keith Emerson here, and this is Keith's modular system. And it's got an incredible history, but the genesis of this synthesizer really starts, the story of it starts in 1964 with the collaboration between Herb and Bob. And rather than me doing a lot of talking, I'd like to bring up Herb to say a few words and to talk a little bit about your collaboration with Bob, but also your relationship to this particular instrument.
Okay. Well, very briefly, my collaboration with Bob, yes, we did work together. It was June 1964, and we did work with the idea of creating what would be a music synthesizer. We used the name synthesizer, but that was the whole basis of that argument. We developed the first instrument at that point, and the prototype I had for quite a while, and eventually gave the prototype to the Henry Ford Museum, which is the Museum of American Technology, which is very exciting. The thing that I just wanted to mention about the modular instrument is that I had a concert to give at the Museum of Modern Art in July of 1969, and Bob wanted to design a modular instrument that I could use as a kind of a lead instrument. I had a quartet, and my polyphonic instrument player was the great Hank Jones, who is one of the great jazz musicians of the Jones family, by the way, if you're into jazz. But the day before the concert, we still didn't have the modular instrument ready to go. And it was an absolutely last-minute, nerve-breaking thing to have booked this concert at the Museum of Modern Art. And it was ready, the instrument was ready, and the concert went on. And I would say that anybody who was there or within 2 or 3 blocks of the Museum of Modern Art, because it was outdoor concert and it was 1969, and I won't say any more than that. It was a beautiful concert, and it smelled great too. The basic modular synthesizer was built, and certainly not for me, because it was built really for that concert. That was the start of this modular instrument, which then ended up as the great Keith Emerson's main instrument, and then continued to grow and grow, both musically and socially and in every way. Thank you.
It is a huge thrill for us to have friends like Herb and Keith and all the artists for the year come to the factory. And Herb, I learned something new. I just realized there's another tradition that Herb touched on that we're continuing here at Moog, which is, getting it to work the night before the concert. And I have to attest that I've had plenty nights like that too. Yes. As Herb said, in 1969, this actual instrument was created as this part right here was the actual synthesizer that was at the 1969 MoMA concert. And Bob had created a special ability of it to do presets. As most of you know, programming an analog synthesizer is kind of an art unto itself, and it involves many, many knobs and chords, and the idea was to be able to recall a sound.
Don't touch that. Say you can touch that.
But it's got presets though, right? I'm going to get myself in trouble. I probably already am. But, at the same time, Keith, who I'm going to actually tell the story, was really looking for a way to use the analog synthesizers in his performance. And rather than me talk about that, I want to introduce someone you guys all know is Keith Emerson. Yeah.
Well, it's great to be here, of course, and I think this creation that Bob Moog came up with, I think it transformed music forever. Actually, I don't know of any sort of well, first of all, I hate the name progressive rock. But there are loads of prog bands, all over the world, internationally, like in Japan and Germany, you name it, and all of them aspire to have this instrument, I know that there are, you know, a lot of my contemporaries, like John Lord, who sadly is no longer with us. I think he was reluctant to use one, mainly because I'd used one. And we all wanted to be different. But my introduction to the Moog was, I think, around about 1969. And I'd had a band called The Nice. What a horrible name for a band. It was, you know, like often referred to the Nice What. But anyway, that's the name that kind of stuck. And so we actually had a few, we had a big hit with a thing called America, based upon Leonard Bernstein's piece from West Side Story, and incorporated with Dvorak's World Symphony. And so, yeah, I thought that'd be rather clever. And we got ourselves into a little bit of trouble because I don't want to get into too many details here, but I think most of you know the story about there was a lot going on over here in America, and we decided to portray it in our arrangement. I think really it was an attempt to go about the way that Bob Dylan did his lyrics, and you know, rejecting what was going on in the world and everything like that. And I was pretty young, but after America came out, and that was you know, the actual single, there was a huge success actually in England. And our next record with The Nice was based upon Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 in G, and it did well enough. It got to about 15 in the British charts, I think. And I happened to walk into a record store in London's Soho, and the record store owner recognised who I was, and he said, "Listen to this." And he put this music on, and I said, "Wow, who is that?" You know, and he showed me the record cover, and I was fascinated. I said, "You sure that this music is coming out of that picture?" Yeah, and that was, of course, Wendy Carlos and Switched on Bach. And I went, "Wow, I've got to get one of these." So I was due to do a concert with the London Philharmonic at a big hall in London, big symphony orchestra. So I thought, well, let's do the music from 2001, you know, Kubrick's music from 2001, Thus Spake Zarathustra. Sorry, I've got a new denture in my mouth. I sort of sound like Sean Connery sometimes. It's either I wear this or I've got a bit of a gap, but anyway, more about dentistry later. No, it proved such an amazing success with the audience, to the extent that everybody thought that it wasn't coming out of this. Well, it was, as explained, it was only that bit then. And it wasn't actually mine. I loaned one from a guy called Mike Vickers. Mike Vickers used to play with Manfred Mann. Those of you, anybody remember Manfred Mann?
Yeah.
Okay. There she goes, just walking down the street. Okay. So Mike Vickers was loaned me his instrument, and it went so well with the orchestra, fantastically well with the orchestra. Although the audience just thought that it was all tape recorded. They thought, that's not coming from that. You know, nobody can get sounds like that at all. So, then I formed Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and we had a small budget in which to, in which to buy new instruments. I think Greg wanted a very good superior bass, and Carl wanted a drum kit, and I thought, well, yeah, what I would like is a Moog synthesizer. So he said, what's that? And I showed them pictures, and they said, are you sure? How much is it? And it was actually an awful lot of money, way beyond the recording budget. So I thought, well, I'll make an attempt. So I wrote to the Moog company, and I wrote a letter to somebody called Walter Sear, which Herb may remember.
I know Walter, yes, I did know Walter.
Walter Sear, yeah. So I wrote to him, saying, well, you never know. You can get a freebie sometimes. I'll endorse it, I'll endorse it. So I got a very nice letter back, which I've still got, back from Walter Sear, the Moog company, saying, well, first of all, we don't really recommend this to other musicians. It is really designed to be used in the recording studio. It's not designed for touring at all. It's part of studio equipment. Furthermore, seeing as the Rolling Stones and the Beatles have bought theirs, we see no reason why you shouldn't buy yours. That was it. So I thought, well, I have to have one. I want to progress music, and so the money was paid over, and then this thing I remember was that this huge box arrived in my small apartment, and I set it up, and there's no instruction manual. I had no idea how to switch it on. That was the only thing, but it looked great. It's a bit like, you've always wanted to ride a motorcycle, and there it is sitting there, but you haven't learned how to ride it. But you just look at it, it's just, wow. So anyway, I called Mike Vickers up and handed it over to him for a week, and he came up with a whole lot of different sounds. Bob had actually designed a preset box which had 8 sounds in it. Basically, with the 3 oscillators, you could tune them all kind of differently, octaves together or in unison. Put one oscillator slightly out of, so it rings a bit more. Put them in 5ths or in 4ths, and so and there were lots of other small sort of tricks and stuff, and that was the basis of the first sounds that I used with the LP, and so it worked on like that, and well, it caused a lot of attention, basically with the British Musicians Union. I happened to sort of make this comment, and I'm sort of very stupid at doing this, you know. You know, that's the thing you don't think about when you're doing interviews. I said, oh, the Moog synthesizer. They asked me about the Moog synth. What is this? I said, this is great. You can replace any member of the orchestra. And, you know, percussion, flute, trumpet, violins, that it does everything. And I was banned from the British Musicians Union for some time, actually. And I think it was also difficult in America as well. Well, I know that a great friend of mine in Japan, you may have heard of him, Tomita, went through the same sort of problem when his arrived, and they weren't quite sure what is this? Is it a musical instrument? Yes, you know, but they weren't convinced, and I think Tomita got out a picture of me, and yeah, that's it is, you know, it's playable on stage, so I got away with that one. But no, it was quite an occasion. The other thing is, of course, that there were lots of a few problems, and number one was keeping the oscillators in tune, and I had a frequency counter, and yeah, I'd have a sort of audio output switch there, and the frequency counter would be there. So basically, what I would do would be to, if I was about to play a solo on this, I'd hold down the A and obviously switch the output off. Hold down the A, look at the frequency counter, and if it was A440, then I knew I was okay to go ahead and play. So all this went on while I was doing all the other stuff. So it was quite demanding. The other thing, of course, that it picked up a lot of radio frequencies from taxi drivers. Taxi drivers. Well, pick up Mrs. Brown. So we found a way, and we actually covered the whole thing with aluminium foil, which deflected the signals. And of course it made the whole thing look like a giant Christmas cake. And sort of defeated that, but we slowly got through all that. And, you know, but anyway, to continue, I mean, I really had established a wonderful relationship with Bob Moog. We hung out a lot together. He loved a laugh. I remember when I picked him up at London Heathrow Airport for the first time, and took him back into London, and he was laughing. And I said, "What are you laughing about?" I think he'd had trouble getting his luggage, as is normal at London Heathrow. And what he found so funny was that the only thing that came round on the conveyor belt, you know, when you pick up your baggage, was that there was just a handle. with somebody's name on it. No luggage, but just the handle, you know. I mean, there was little things like that which really amused him. And but when he heard the solo to Lucky Man, he just went, wow, you know. And he could see the possibilities that this was not designed for only a recording studio, but it could be used in concert. And I said, I'll prove that I can do that. And so we worked on the changes, and then one thing led to another, and you know, Bob got into creating all the other sort of production models, and which was great for other bands, because, you know, not too many people can carry these around. But I think times like that are changing. I think road crews today are pretty good, and they're very adaptable. Particularly, well, this particular model, which I've been very happy that is Gene Stopp here. There he is. Well, I have to congratulate this man over here for come on. I don't know if you want to say anything at all, but you've done an awful lot of work on it.
I'm a synth nerd.
Huh?
I'm a synth nerd.
You're a synth nerd?
Yeah.
But no, it's incredible. It's well stabilized now, and the confidence that it gives a musician is really, really amazing. You know, in the early days, I would go on stage and put a note down and not wonder if it was going to be in tune or whatever, or just tune it up on the way. And Gershon Kingsley, I think, was in the audience at a gig in Gaelic Park, way in the early 70s. And I had Bob Moog on stage. He hid behind the Marshall speakers. And I just kept looking round at him, and he was just laughing his head off. He couldn't believe it, you know. And he got towards the end of our performance. Now, Gaelic Park is it's got porta bins, you know, like toilets, you know, all the way round. Well, it did have then, and up above there was this sort of like railroad track where the trains came in and did a complete reversal. So there's all this clattering of trains and clattering of the porta bins being shut. And there at the end of the show, there I am sort of, as I was prone to do, sticking knives in my organ. And Gershon Kingsley was seen wandering around going, "It's the end of the world." So that was a story that Bob loved to tell. And, anyway, I'm very proud that and thanks to Gene, to, you know, establishing this, we're able to move on, and I think we have something here, don't we? I think that's enough from me.
I think before we talk about this, the reason for this is folks like Herb and Keith, and the real thing that this is really about is honoring the contribution of these tremendous artists, not only to the evolution of the technology, which we are still evolving today, but also to just art and music. And like most of you, I can remember the first time I heard that Lucky Man solo and how it changed me and then all your music. So this synthesizer represents so much to all of us, just beyond the instrument itself. And one of the things that Keith touched upon is the word problems. And you know, as you said, it started from this single unit, and as Keith started exploring its possibilities, as he said, you know, I need this, I need to be able to tune it. So we had, Bob added frequency counter, presets, sequencers, more low-frequency oscillators, and the system grew and grew. And thanks to the effort of people like Gene, it's still growing. And so we really primarily, first and foremost, want to honor, thank, and appreciate the huge contributions of these incredible people that we still have great relationships with, like Herb and Keith. So, and we're still trying to solve all those problems today, and we're still approaching our instruments in the very same way that Bob did 50 years ago, still very much based on control voltage and the idea of giving the musician the ability to use their imagination, their inspiration to create the sounds that we can't even imagine being created from them. And I think some of those stories are very emblematic of that. So why did we do this? It's really because of these folks. And so I will pull this apart and introduce one of our latest projects, but a huge one. Yes.
Did you know?
No,
All right. I want to introduce the Emerson Moog Modular system, and what we've done is through years of really painstaking research, and Keith already introduced Gene Stopp. Let's keep Gene come up again. Gene, as he said, is a self-professed synth nerd. We call him now the Moog, the engineering manager for this project, because Gene knows Keith's system probably better than just about anybody in terms of the electronics and the maintenance of it. Has been kind of a caretaker of the instrument for quite a few years. Has an extremely close relationship to Keith. In addition, unfortunately, Brian Kehew, who is also a very, very, very key part of this story, and this wouldn't have ever happened without him. He's, as Mike said, I came aboard when Bob got sick, and Brian was one of the first people I met, and Brian is just a world expert, incredible musician, but also a synthesis and expert in the history of electronic instruments, but particularly the Moog synthesizers. And the last time we were hanging out together, we were in his studio, and he was pulling out all these brochures, all these old Moog brochures, and he said when he was a kid, you know, he didn't have any money to buy instruments, and so he'd go to the stores and he would ask if they had any extra brochures. So from when he was a kid in the 60s, you know, he still has all these brochures. That it's just incredible that his imagination at that point wasn't. And so he's had this lifelong journey, and an incredibly generous person, and he can't be here because he is in England doing some talks at Abbey Road Studios. I really wish he was talking right now, not me. But Gene and Brian have a long-term collaboration too, and we kind of joined forces to create this synthesizer, which is as faithful a recreation of Keith's system as absolutely possible. And as I say, we got, you know, it's based on original artwork from PCB films, where there wasn't original artwork. Gene spent hours and hours recreating, you know, the actual traces of these circuit boards down to, we'll just say, pixels from using the modern era, and original films for artwork for the panels. A lot of these components haven't been made for years and years. Gene spent hours sourcing them from all over the world. In some cases, actually having disassembled components, scrubbing them with steel brushes, reassembling them. So the amount of detail, and I also want to thank the whole engineering team, particularly Rosser Douglas and Eric Church, who I believe are here too, who spent a lot of time helping make this come to fruition, and we just thought it was an incredible opportunity to do this here at Moogfest, have these incredible friends of the company and great artists be here to be part of this celebration. This instrument, I got the extreme privilege of actually, we had him set up in the sound lab, our little sound room over there last week when Gene was tuning instruments. I got the extreme joy and privilege of playing both of them at the same time. I'm sorry. But
Don't touch
except when I have to move it, maybe. But it was actually very thrilling to be able to play this instrument that has had this almost 50-year life and continues to grow, and to play this one, which has so much really hard work, dedication, expertise, and inspiration and love put into it, down to the very details. And we're thrilled to be able to release it. I'll just say we'll have some questions. The three most obvious questions I'm going to answer first. We have no idea what this is going to cost. We have no idea when we're going to be able to offer it to people, and we don't know how many we're going to be able to make. All right. Other than that, this is great effort. But we will achieve all those things. But it was a huge milestone to get this.
It does go to number 11.
Very important. Yeah. So anyway, I want to again thank Herb and Keith, Gene, Brian Kehew, and all the folks at Moog, but also really thank Bob, who really inspired this whole journey. And again, not only for his technical prowess, but for who he was as a person and his attitude towards life. And I think these folks can talk to that better than anybody. So thank you all so much for being here, being part of the festival, and if we have a few minutes for questions, we're happy to answer them.
So how much did the original synthesizer cost?
It was somewhere in the region, if I remember correctly, about £25,000. That's pounds, yeah. Some in that region.
Yes.
What is the top left module there, the one that has a piece of art on? Is that just a piece of art, or is it
Yes, I'll actually let Keith. They want to know about the last panel, the art panel.
Ah, well, gosh, I don't know who put that on there. I do know that there was one occasion where this screen up here, which is actually it is actually part of the whole system. But back in the earlier days, it would actually the road crew had sort of rigged it up to like a video player, and on the last one of the last ELP tours, well, it was like kind of a wrap, last event thing, and the road crew, with their sense of humour, had managed to rig it up and. Sorry, ladies, but they played a porno thing through it. So you can imagine I'm up here playing going like this, and I'm, unaware, and the front row going, well, the guys are of course going, look at that, I'm going, what? So I look up and there's. Well, I don't want to get into details. Leave it to your imagination. But those are the sort of rotten things that they did. Yeah. There we go.
Will there be individual modules available, or is this a complete system only?
All that's to be determined, yeah. Yes?
Will we pay extra for porno?
I can't answer that question either. These are good questions, yeah.
When did a ribbon controller come into play?
Ah, that's a good question.
The scratcher.
Well, at first I used it, and of course, you know, you slide, and it's got like, probably Gene can explain the basics of it a little bit better on how a rhythm controller would work.
But you can go on with your story.
Huh?
You can go on with your story, though.
All right, okay. So basically, it is a ribbon, and you've got another strip of metal, and you can get the two, and it just you slide notes from one to the other, and after a while, it kind of wore away. The ribbon part wore away, and I found by some extraordinary thing that using the frayed bit of the ribbon and triggering it with the other metal strip, you could get something like a machine gun sound. So then my imagination went further, and I got into a pyrotechnics expert, Bob McCarthy, who actually helped develop the spinning piano. And I said, well, can you stick something underneath the ribbon controller so that it, when I make machine gun sounds, things fly out of the ribbon controller? So he said, yeah, no problem. So my road crew got really over enthusiastic on one gig. I forget where it was. I think it was San Francisco, and they loaded it up, and I'd usually test it, you know, at sound check, and I thought, well, it's a bit delayed, you know. And, you know, back in those days, there weren't the strict enforcements of what we have now. Right. You know, because there've been lots of dreadful accidents and things. But you know, back then they didn't pay much attention to it. So so he loaded it up, and I went on stage and started using it, and I think it was in the middle of Tarkus or something, and I'm machine gunning, and then there's a little clip underneath which I could clip like that and then fire off the flares. But there was a delay, and it stuck in the tube right under my finger, and it completely blew this fingernail off. So that wasn't much fun, except that I had to go on stage and do a piano solo the next bit without a fingernail, and that's pretty painful.
Yes.
So yeah, I managed to get through that. But oh, there was another occasion, I think, when ELP played at a gig, and the ribbon controller didn't go off, so I just put it on the stage, and there was all these people in the front row, and then suddenly it decided to go off right in the faces of the front row of the audience, and I thought, that's it, sued, you know. You know, but I'm looking, I'm going forward and saying, are you okay? And they're going, yeah, man, that's cool. So there you go. The audiences can be very forgiving.
I want to mention one thing that you had mentioned the name Walter Sear,
Yeah.
without speaking badly of him, and Walter Sear is dead now. But when before Bob and I actually designed the first synthesizer, Walter Sear was working as sort of an informal business manager for Bob's theremins that he was selling as kits.
Oh.
And that's where Walter Sear started. he is a New Yorker, was a New Yorker, and did end up very seriously doing well in the audio and recording world. But in between times, the interesting thing is when I met him, when I met Bob Moog, and there was this place full of Bob's theremins, there were also tubas there. And he told me, he said, Walter Sear is a tuba designer. And I said, really? And then I looked it up. And I found out, yes, there were, in fact, Walter Sear tubas. And during the 1980s, he also wrote music for a number of pornos. A number of porno movies.
Really?
Really.
I never met him, but I wish I did.
No, he's actually an interesting man. But he was not really involved in the company after that beginning of time where you were dealing with him.
Yeah.
So this instrument will be available in the store for pictures. You can take obviously as many as you want right now, but we thank you all for coming. And if there's one last question or any last thing that somebody would ask, we'd be happy.
Plugged in.
No, it's not plugged in. We'll be saying that.
I want to hear it.
I'm sure.
Keith, what do you think? How does it sound?
Sorry?
How does the new one sound?
It's pretty accurate, actually. It's very reliable. It is well. It's as one would expect, really. Gene's worked meticulously on it, actually, when I first saw it, I wasn't quite sure which one was mine. So that's how close it is, the reliability and the what's the word for it? You can go pretty much anywhere sound-wise with it, apart from playing it conventionally. Of course, it is still monophonic, which means you only play one note at a time. But there is a way of getting around that, which Gene Stopp has designed with other things, and it's just really a way of using your imagination. It is. It is. It's not a solo instrument like a piano is, but you have to learn to use it in the sense that it is a synthesizer, and it's monophonic, but you can get some sort of polyphony out of it, and also in conjunction with another keyboard. But basically, for me, that represents the monolithic structure. To go on stage without it, it's a bit like going on stage like wearing a t-shirt and underpants, I suppose.
Okay, thank you very much.